dainty daisies, 1, 2, 3, or a small bunch of them. The lovely thing about daisies is that with just a few of them, you're already feeling the joy of simplicity. And what we'll be needing is pretty simple. We're using some yellow and some green crepe paper, some ivory colored normal piece of paper, wire, thin metal wire. Maybe you've got some that's already pre-cut, which is brilliant. Floral tape, masking tape, and a bit of glue. And I'm just showing you, just to make this the precision of, if you are cutting up metal wire, please use a pliers, so don't use your paper cutting scissors for that. And this is a piece of yellow paper, crepe paper. The crepe paper is wonderful to use, but don't feel that if you don't have any, you can't make a daisy, because actually you can easily, the first ones I made out of old recycled paper, you can even colour some yellow paper with a watercolour, whatever paint you've got. I'm cutting up circles. The circles don't have to be perfect. The circles are just an indication of what you need, and it'll just make it a little bit easier to do the work that we're doing. And here's another piece of yellow, more yellowy, orangey piece of crepe paper. I'm folding it, so I've got several, and don't have to do the work again and again. It's easier to cut several layers of paper because it makes the structure of the paper, the texture of it, easier to cut into. And I'm using everything. I'm going to use these offcuts, and I'm going to roll a little piece of it into a small paper ball. I'm twisting it and using my nails to squeeze it and make it as round as possible. And then once I've got this round paper ball, I'm wrapping it into one of the circles that I just cut up. And I'm again using my nails to squeeze around it to get this. It looks a bit like a chamomile bud. I don't know if you have chamomile tea, and you'll see that these yellow buds in the middle are the ones that you can make delicious chamomile tea from. And then I'm wrapping the metal wire around it. I'm twisting it around and I'm shaping it. I'm just making sure that it's got almost like a flat top, and then twisting the metal wire to make sure that it looks like the perfect little inside bud. And I'm giving it a bit of masking tape, making sure that the masking tape, rolling it around the bottom part of the yellow bud, and then twisting it into the metal wire so there really is an even joint. And I'm doing that one more time with the slightly yellower, light yellow paper, a little ball, wrap it around in the piece of circled cut out crepe paper, and then twisting the metal wire around it. Twisting it and shaping the bud so it really has the daisy inside of the daisy look that I want. And then wrapping the masking tape around it, really to give it support and for the metal wire not to snap or rip the paper that we're going to use now. And here I'm just using an ordinary piece of white paper, cutting a circle. These circles, you're probably getting very good at it by now. So, but again, they don't have to be perfect. Nature, you'll find a pretty accurate, wonderfully round circle. And that's the wonderful thing about nature. It does it all by itself. When we recreate it, it doesn't have to be exactly that way because it is a replication of it. Just look at the petals on this one. They're nowhere near perfect. But I'm cutting towards the centerpiece where my nail is, where my thumb is. And then I'm cutting out and back in again, creating these small white petals with a bit of air in between them. So this is something that takes a little bit of practice, but it really only takes a little bit of practice. Once you've got I've got 4 pieces and I'm taking 2 of them. And I'm just sliding one piece on top of the other so they're not exactly positioned on top of each other, but that will give it more of a fluffy look for the daisy. I'm punching a little hole in the middle of it and then threading the metal wire into the paper and making sure that it shapes itself around that yellow bud. I'm doing that again. I'm punching a hole in the 2 other pieces of paper that I've got. And then I'm threading the metal wire in there. And the masking tape will also help you to get the paper stuck on there and have the right tension between the paper and the metal wire. If you want the daisy to be a little bit bigger and a little bit fluffier, you can just add another layer. See, it gets a bit fluffier. And now I'm cutting some of the green crepe paper to give the stem, or behind on the outside of the daisy, you will often find, if you look on what they look like in nature, they'll have a little support. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing exactly the same thing as I did with the white paper, but I'm just making the gaps between the triangular petals wider. So there's more breathing space, because I don't need it to be as round or as fluffy as that one, as you can see there. I've got 4 of them, and I'm going to just use one, prick a little hole with the scissors, and then glue it on one side and thread the metal wire, making sure that the glue is towards the white petals, so that the glue, now I'm placing it, sliding it over the masking tape, and just giving it a little scrunch. Doing the other one, you glue it, place the metal wire, prick a hole if you haven't already pricked a hole in the green paper. And then I'm going to wrap it with floral tape. This is a slightly lighter coloured floral tape that I found, because sometimes daisies, if you notice them, they have like the stem is a light green. So I'm just holding on to the top part and twisting the floral tape around the metal wire and cutting the offcut of the floral tape off. Make sure you don't cut into the metal wire with a paper scissors. So wrapping around the metal wire as if it were a scarf, fastening at the top, holding on, twisting the daisy. I'm just swapping hands, so twisting the daisy and then pulling the floral tape at the other end. And that bit is excess, so I'm just going to cut that off. And now I'm going to cut the leaves. And if you see the daisy leaves in real life, they will be at the very bottom, but I'm putting them at the middle of the stem to give it, I think that gives it a really nice look when you put them in a small vase or jar. I'm gluing the end bit of the leaf and wrapping it around the stem. And it may not be enough to fasten it, so I will put a little bit of floral tape around it, but I'll just put one on the other side as well, gluing it and then shaping it around, and then adding a little bit of floral tape to just make sure that the petals or the leaves are fastened onto the stem. Again, you don't need to use crepe paper, because crepe paper is just it's almost like a beginner's guide. It's great to use because it shapes so easily the way you want it to. But if you don't have it, you can easily use other kind of green paper, or you can you can do it with ordinary white paper and then colour them in with aquarelle them, or use the ones from the templates. Some daisies will have these small pink bits right at the edge, and it gives them a really sweet look if you do that. So if you've got some watercolour paint, then just dip them with, just gently put a little bit of brush stroke them and give them a little bit on the outside and a little bit on the end. You can alternate so not all of them have that look. So here's a little meadow of them. And of course, if you want to make a wreath like we've done here, then you'll probably need about 35 to 40 daisies. And it just takes a bit of time, but go ahead.